hi internet! Let's talk about intersex, aka disorders of sex development.
Before we even move on, I'd like to say that everything she's about to describe is considered a genetic disorder, not a third sex.
Before we can really talk about and understand intersex, we have to talk about sex. Are you ready to get your science on? I sure hope so.
Yeah, like you really know what the hell you're talking about when it comes to science.
Sex has 4 primary characteristics. Your genitals on the outside, your sex organs on the inside, your chromosomes, part of your DNA, and your hormones, which are secreted by your glands into your blood.
But characteristics are just features that come from whatever the hell your DNA tells them to be. Remember, DNA is in charge of everything.
These primary sex characteristics are typically present when you're born, and they work together to produce your secondary sex characteristics. Those come a little later, during that notorious hormone party known as puberty. Secondary sex characteristics are things like chest hair, facial hair, pubic hair, larynx size, which determines the pitch of your voice, height, menstruation, muscle to body fat ratio, a whole bunch of stuff. Based on what we observe, human beings sort ourselves into 2 sex categories, male and female.
And we do that because science and common sense all say that there are only 2 sexes, Laci.
But as it turns out, there are actually more than 2 sexes. And
Nope.
that brings us to intersex. Intersex is an umbrella term. It's used to describe people who don't fit into the typical definitions of male and female because of variations in their sex characteristics. Who don't fit into the typical definitions of male and female because of variations in their sex characteristics.
Take a look at the list of different sexes she has up there, or well, what she calls different sexes, and you'll notice most of them are disorders.
1 in every 2,000 people is intersex, and there are lots of different forms of it.
1 in every 2,000 is such a small number, it will not change the overall species and how many sexes we have.
Genital variation. The person might have a fused labia, a very tiny penis, or a very large clitoris.
Wait, are you trying to say if a guy's not very well endowed, he should be considered a third sex? Man, you're an asshole, Laci.
Sex organ variation. The ovaries may not be fully developed, or there's something of a vulva on the outside and testes on the inside. Chromosomes.
Clearly a disorder, Laci.
XX chromosomes, or XXY, or X, or XX and XY. All the X's! And a little bit of Y.
And that would be Klinefelter syndrome, XXX syndrome, and Turner syndrome, you fucking guppy.
And hormones. Their cells may not respond to testosterone. Now, when you take all these variations that can happen into account, it's easier to see how sex is actually a continuum with male and female at the ends. It's not just 2 strict categories, right?
Wrong, Laci. We are a sexually dimorphic species, and just about every other mammal is in the world, because that's how the human and other races have survived forever.
A little word about categories. Our brains naturally categorize things. It helps us to simplify information so that we can more easily draw conclusions about the world and save our brains a lot of energy.
And what the hell is wrong with that, Laci?
But it's important to remember the sex categories of male and female are actually generalizations, and those generalizations are created by us, by humans.
And by science, which has proven over and over again that there are only 2 sexes and that sexual dimorphism is a thing and that intersex is not.
Generalizations are sometimes medically helpful, particularly when we're talking about things like puberty, pregnancy, menopause, menstruation, your risk for certain diseases and cancers, breast cancer, prostate cancer, heart disease. All of those things are affected by your sex.
Because there are only 2 sexes and you can determine a whole lot about what you're at risk for in your lifetime based on the fact that there are only 2 sexes.
But there's still no boundary, there's no checklist about what qualifies someone as female or male, and that has created a whole lot of problems for people who exist on the sex continuum.
If you've got a vagina, you're a woman. If you've got a penis, you're a man. Duh.
When a beautiful little intersex baby comes into the world, doctors and parents are eager to assign it a sex and a gender. These assignments are based on babies' genitals, whether they have something that looks more like a clitoris or more like a penis. Now, for some intersex conditions, you can't even tell by looking. It might be chromosomal and the person doesn't know till much later in their life. So they get assigned male or female and they go on their way. But if it's not so readily obvious, doctors will just sort of arbitrarily pick a sex.
So what, you're a doctor now and you automatically know what exactly is arbitrary about a doctor's decision and what's not? Oh yeah, right.
Usually based on whether or not they think that your genitals could penetrate something. That is what makes a male. Which, when you think about it, is a really weird standard.
Laci, if you're an expert on sex, then why the hell don't you know where babies come from? It comes from a man penetrating a woman's vagina with his penis and then ejaculating into it.
More so in the past, but still to this day, doctors will perform surgery on infants to make their genitals look more normal. And that is a big problem. 1, an infant can't give informed consent.
Actually, circumcision is something in the Western world that's only performed on men. It's illegal to circumcise a woman.
2, there is really no normal. Even dyadic genitals, which fit into the sex binary, have so much variation. 3, and this is key, there's typically no medical need to operate. And 4, it can compromise the person's sexual pleasure, functioning, and sense of agency down the road.
Okay, 3 things. Number 1, yes, there is a normal for gender. If 99% of the population is a certain way, that is considered the norm. Number 2, you are not a doctor. You do not have the ability to judge whether it is medically necessary to operate. And number 3, genital mutilation may be a brutal thing that should be consensual, but guess what? It's not supposed to take away agency. So if it does, that doctor is going to jail for a malpractice suit.
These reasons and more, it's crucial to leave intersex babies' genitals alone if there's no medical necessity.
Which you can never judge because you're not a doctor.
So what's with the surgeries anyway? Intersex gives people a lot of anxiety because it poses this paradox. People think that sex and gender are the same thing, when really, they are 2 different things. Sex, male, female, intersex, pertains to biology, even though the ways that we understand that biology is socially constructed.
Biology isn't sociology, Laci.
Gender, on the other hand, refers to the interactions between our psychology, our culture and socialization, and our identities. But in a society where sex and gender are treated as the same thing, if a parent can't discern their child's sex, they can't discern their child's gender. And that poses a lot of social, cultural questions about how they will raise the child. And this is an important question that I think all parents should ask themselves.
Because you're a batshit insane feminist who doesn't believe in biology, religion, science, or common sense. You know what? You humans have it so easy, okay? As an angel, I have to sit around listening to idiots like her babble on about how they believe that intersex is a real thing and that sex isn't, okay? All you guys have to do is sit there, eat Cheetos, and enjoy my ranting.
Not just the parents of intersex children. How can we raise children without strictly prescribed gender roles, without all these expectations based on their genitals?
We shouldn't. But if we're gonna go down this road, I sexually identify as an attack helicopter, and I'm kinda mad that you didn't use my preferred pronouns of Apache, Black Hawk, and Comanche.
A challenge for you, internet. I want to know what y'all think down below. Love y'all very much. Mwah! I'll see you next time.
I think Gavin McInnes said it best when he said that all of these stupid feminists are just babysitters with a vlog. Well, guys, thank you once again for watching. I know it was so hard. I mean, you just had to keep looking at her horrible, horrible face. But it's over now. Thank you for getting through with it. See you next time.